Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with a daily race C at Green Hell, and this is going to be a fun challenge. So this track we only properly started learning really in the last, I'd say, 12 months. Every time it's come on we've been racing it and gradually been picking up more and more pace, and finally we're starting to find a little bit more of a rhythm. So yeah, let's get on with this race. If you do enjoy these videos, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about this race, and then let's get it started. So in this race we've got Calster back on the game in P1. Calster was always very fast at Green Hell, and nothing's changed there. So Calster is a pad player. He drives on the controller, we're on the wheel. So this is a good little video to show you that the pad can be 100% competitive against the wheel, and Calster's actually been away from the game for a while. So yeah, he probably would be a little bit faster also if he'd been playing a little bit more consistently. And obviously this track though is more suited to Calster. I think he was always very strong at this track. For me, this is still a learning progress, but yeah, starting off the race, you can see straight away we kind of lose the slipstream to P2, but managed to get slightly back in it there. And that is a challenge with this track. With the standing start on this week's daily race C, it is a bit weird because so many drivers lose the slipstream still. It would have been better if they did the 24-hour track, and then you wouldn't have people losing the slipstream. It would have been a lot more entertaining, a lot more chaotic, but I think it would have been a really fun combination. It's still been good fun though, learning this combination this week and learning the track even more now. I feel even more comfortable with it now, and yeah, you can see we're in that slipstream to P2, and you can see the gap to P4 because of that break in the slipstream, and that is what's happening because of the standing start on this layout. So now it's all about just trying to keep it smooth, keep it consistent, and see if we can help P2, if possible, get into the slipstream with Calster, because it does look like Calster has actually broke that slipstream to P2. But we know that P2 was very fast from previous races that we had done at this combination, so we're going to try and stay with P2, use his slipstream to help us out, and just follow them as well and just try and learn from them as well, because they were definitely a little bit more competitive than I was at this stage. But the only way you get faster is by learning from people that are faster. So following them through here and just trying to keep it nice and smooth and trying not to make any mistakes, and just see if P2 can pick up that slipstream. You can see he's very close there, almost in it there at this stage. He might even be fractionally in it. So yeah, working our way into this very tricky section here, just skimming the apex and being careful not to run on the outside of the track there, and downshifting into third gear. And again through here, very careful, you have to run over the grass a little bit and then into the braking zone down to third gear. And what I've started to do here is, I was going in second gear for a while, but now I started to stay in third gear and just let the car rotate and then get on the power, and it seems a lot better doing it that way. And then into this long right hand corner, downshifting to fourth, let the car coast and just let the rotation happen on its own, and then get back on the throttle and work your way down into this downhill tricky. So this is all about getting the braking done nice and early and keeping the car stable and getting it into that apex, and then back on the throttle as early as you can without losing the rear. Such a challenging track, but a track that I absolutely am really enjoying it. The more I drive this track, the more and more I like it, I have to say. It did take us a while to start driving it, but now I feel 100% confident at this track, I have to say. Pushing at it and keep pushing every lap, we're just pushing ourselves even more, and we are really starting to find a little bit of consistency and pace at this combination now. It is one of them tracks you've just got to keep racing, because racing it once or twice, it isn't really enough to really find that consistent balance of pushing and keeping the car on the track. So we're going to fast forward here now on this main straight, where this is just a slipstream section of the track. Everyone's just slipstreaming, and you can see we're getting a little bit closer. You can see P2 is right up behind Calster now, and this battle is going to get a lot more intense now, because all three of us are going to be in the slipstream and very close together. You can see on the replay camera there's a bit of a gap from ourselves to P2. P2 looks like he's going to try and go for a move in the braking zone, but Calster covers the inside there. And again, just look how close this is. This is getting very intense at Nordschleife. And I have to say, this track is very difficult when you've got three cars as close as this, because you can't afford to miss an apex. You've got to keep it as close as possible, especially with Gran Turismo Sport, with how the slipstream is so strong. One little mistake could lose you so much time, especially on this track where the track is all about flow. If you miss one corner apex, you end up missing the next one, and then it affects you for the corner after that, and then you just lose so much momentum. But at the moment we're driving very well. You can see getting the car into the apex is nice and early there, on the throttle as early as we can, and just trying to keep that consistency while pushing this track. And I honestly think there is no better track for really pushing the car than this one. I love a lot of other tracks, but the more and more I drive this, when you're really on the limit at this track, I think there is no better track. It has to be said, even in a race situation like this, once you're pushing and you've got cars right in front of you and you're following them, I don't think there's a track that compares to it. So yeah, into this right hand corner, trying to get it close to the apex, using the curb on the left hand side, and then into this very tricky left hand corner. This corner again, very easy to run wide. Got to get on the pile nice and early to try and rotate the car, and then we're onto that downhill section. You can see a bit of a gap to P2 now, but we should be okay as soon as we get through to this downhill right hand corner where we just downshift to 4th. You can see he won't be able to go around there as fast because he's very, very close to Calster in P1, and we've managed to gain over a 10th on him there. So back into that slipstream, and now we're going to be working on to the final long straight soon. So this is going to be a tactical battle, this race. It's going to be about where we can find a way of getting past at least one driver, because if we try and go for both positions from here, it's very likely that Calster would just get back into our slipstream and go back past us, and then possibly we'd end up back in P3 anyway. So you can see at this point we've got a nice little gap here. We're trying to keep that gap around this distance as well, because you want to get that momentum on the straight and decide what you're going to do. So again, through here, lifting off the throttle, back onto the throttle, and taking it nice and easy. We don't want to overdrive it because we just want to get in that slipstream. And now we're working our way on that long straight in the slipstream, and now it's all about tactics. So we're behind P2. We see that P2 is going to go for the move on Calster. So I decide here at this point it's probably best just to stay to the left, and we squeeze our car down that left hand side, give Calster the bump draft, and then put ourselves up to P2. So now from this position we should be alright to hold on to P2 for the rest of this lap. So yeah, up into P2. We could have probably have gone for P1, but I think all that would have happened if we went for P1 was one of them might have just snuck into our slipstream. We would have lost the position again. So we went for the safest route of getting ourselves up to P2, and now we're behind Calster, who, like we say, is very, very fast here. And I'm not sure who was faster over the guy behind us or Calster. I think possibly Calster, slightly faster, so that was one of the reasons why I decided to go with following Calster through there, because I knew he was ever so slightly faster probably at this combination. Not a massive amount, but he definitely had very good pace around here. So again, through this section, all about just staying close to the car in front and just making sure the car behind doesn't get close enough to go for an opportunity anywhere. Although it is very difficult to overtake at this track. There is only a couple of overtaking positions, but one of them is obviously at the end of this very, very long slipstreaming phase in a minute, because from now right the way to the end of the straight, it's pretty much just slipstreaming. But you can see we managed to hold on to this position. We're still in P2, skipping ahead a little bit further in the race, and it was very much just a case of stay as close as you can to the car in front at this stage and just drive as smoothly as you can. You can see the gaps are pretty equal. We've got around 2.5 tenths to Calster, around 3 tenths, 2.5 tenths to P3, but really intense racing. This is again another reason why we're still playing GT Sport. This is why I'm still playing it, because races like this, absolutely driving the limits of the track, really clean drivers around us, and it's just really entertaining. I think hopefully it's entertaining to watch as well, the intensity of it. I really enjoy this type of racing. This is where I think Gran Turismo excels, when you've got drivers pushing the limits and it's really clean, it's really intense, especially at a track like this where it's not a very wide track, so it's very, very difficult to follow a car very close, especially from the view that I use as well, I'd say, because you're kind of restricted a bit with what you can see when you're on that front bumper view. But you can see, watching the replay camera now, just look how close it is. It looks like P3 is going to go for a move around the outside. I decided to stay again to the right and give Calster the bump draft, and you can see that is just not going to work. He's going to back out of that for this corner because it would have been too risky to go too wide or 3 wide through there. So he backs out of that, and we follow in the line, a train of 3 cars going into the next right hand corner. Again, you can see Calster going a little bit defensive. I wasn't going to go for a move there. He's just getting himself in a defensive position, but we're really close to Calster now through this section, and then into the carousel up here now. Let's see how we go through here. Now, Calster was very, very strong at this corner. I was losing the temper to him pretty much every time. I'm not sure, possibly I was going a little bit too calm into the corner. Maybe I should be a bit more aggressive maybe and carry a bit more speed through there. But we're still staying very close to him. You can see we're only a few tenths back from him. His connection was starting to go a little bit dodgy. You can see that on the top left. He was starting to lose a little bit of connection. It wasn't massive, it was just a little bit of lag every now and then. His car looked fairly stable still on the track, so it wasn't a huge issue, but it is always a little bit of a worry just in case he lags at any point. But you can see again, fast forwarding through there as we're staying really, really close. We've got the gap to nearly 5 tenths then to P3. However, again, it's once you're really close through these sections of the track, it's very hard to really push much. So again, you can see that P3 is going to start gaining back on us as we hook that corner up quite nice and get very, very close to Calster through here. And again, only a tenth to the car in front. Again, you can see what I'm talking about. This part of the track isn't the hardest, but when you're right up behind someone on the view that I use, it's very difficult to see the track. You can actually see I'm slightly going off the racing line just so I can see the corners and what corners are coming up, just so that you've got your references for where you need to brake and stuff. So again, we're coming up to that back straight. We're on the final lap now. Let's see what happens. And this is going to be interesting. Can we somehow get ourselves into the lead? We're going to have to be very cautious here though, because we've got P3 right behind. So if anything, this is going to be difficult to hold on to even P2, because P3 is going to have a massive run, and if we go for a move on Calster very early, that means P3 is going to get the run on both of us, and then Calster will tuck into the slipstream of the person that's in P3 now and probably overtake us. So it's a very hard decision what to do here. So I decide we're going to get into Calster's slipstream. We're going to give him a bump draft at the start of the straight. So giving him that bump draft there, that's going to give him a bit of extra speed, and then that's going to enable me to get back and obviously use the slipstream. So he's going to go defensive to the left hand side of the track. P3 is going to go for that massive run that he's got. You can see he's got a massive overdrive. So we're going to try and bump draft Calster now on the left hand side and see if we can hold on to P2. So you can see bump drafting him all the way up here, and we're just about starting to get the momentum back now, and we're managing to hold on to P2. And now, can we see if we can find a way into P1? You can see we're having a look on the right hand side. Calster breaks insanely late into this corner. I didn't break that late. We take it a little bit smoother, and now we've got a nice run on the final corner. Can we send one up the inside? We go for a little bit of a fake to see if we can trick him into making a mistake. He doesn't do it. He gives us a space, but still makes the corner, and all three cars over the line within a few tenths of a second on such a hard track to drive. That was some pretty incredible driving, but we're going to go again for one more race. You can see just at the gaps that we created as well, over 10 seconds for P4 away from us. So yeah, the pace was actually pretty strong there, actually finishing on 14:13, I think it was 14 minutes and 30 seconds. So starting the next race, this time the other driver's not in the race. We've got a race, Calcer still in here, and we got Mario right behind us there. So let's see what happens in this daily race C. So straight away from the start, you can see that Calcer, again, that start, he's away from the slipstream through turn 1. So we've got to really push now all the way down here. You can see that we're almost in it though, but we're going to have to really drive ultra aggressive to make sure that we get back in that slipstream. So through here, trying to get the car into apex on the throttle as early as we can, using all the track on the left there. That was inches away from losing control of the car. And let's see now, we're just about in that slipstream. So again, through this corner, we're going to have to make sure we drive it nice and smooth, on the throttle nice and early, and now we're onto that slipstream phase where we're going to be okay. So you can see straight away though, we've managed to break that slipstream from P3. So now it's just a case of staying with Calcer for as long as possible and seeing if we can push this all the way to the finish. And obviously the advantage we've got this time is there's only 2 cars in this battle so far, because P3 has dropped behind to 1.5 seconds. So it's a little less pressure from anyone behind us, so we can concentrate on the race a bit more and maybe try and see if we can get the win somehow. So let's see, as we follow down the slipstream on this long straight now, let's see if we can do this nice and smooth through here. Again, this really tricky left-hand corner that I've started to turn in quite early on, and I found quite a nice line through there that really enables you to hook up this next section. So down second gear, staying as close to the curb as you can. We ran in a little bit deep on the exit there. You can see again pushing us wide on the exit of the right-hander because we ran in deep on the other corner, but just about managing to stay in the slipstream around 6 tenths behind them. So we're going to have to drive very, very smooth through this section. We can't afford to make one more mistake, because if we make another mistake, we're going to lose that vital slipstream for that long straight. So let's see what we can do through here. Nice and smooth through there. We managed to nail that actually, and actually gain a tenth on Calster. So back well into the slipstream. However, braking a little bit late there in third gear and losing a bit of time. So again, we're very, very close to losing it from Calster here. So again, through this long right hand corner, trying to keep it nice and smooth and trying to get the car to rotate through here. You can see just about getting it to rotate and just stopping it from going on the dirt on the left hand side. Again in the braking zone, getting a little bit unstable there. Again, that corner very, very tricky to try and keep the stability on the car as you're going downhill and trying to brake at the same time. The rear does want to obviously kick out on you. So again, just staying within that 7.5 tenths range. You can see it just under 6 tenths behind him, and into this long right hand corner where it's very, very tricky actually. You've got to get on the power as early as you can to maintain the speed on the uphill section, but we're doing that quite well there, really getting the hang of that right hand corner there And now we're fast forwarding the section, which this is all just about slipstream, where we can see we're gaining on Calster. And again, we're not close enough to really go for a move, so we're not going to go for a move yet. And it probably wouldn't make any sense to go for a move at this point. We're 3.7 seconds ahead, so we'll wait for the main opportunity to go for the move, which is the long straight at the end of the lap. That is going to be the obvious place to go for an overtake move. So again, following through here, watching that replay cameras, we're really close to Calster now, keeping it nice and smooth. You can see the distance, the gap behind us there. You can see as we go through the carousel, you can see they're around 3.5 seconds behind us. So we've got a nice gap. We've got enough time to really, you know, if we're going to fight on that back straight, we can do that at the end of the race. Let's see how it is now. So following behind Calster, trying to keep it nice and smooth. And into this left-hand corner again, just letting the car coast, not using too much braking, just let the car roll through these corners, and then again down into third gear here, just a little bit of braking input to try and get that car to rotate into the apex. And again, using these curbs, the thing with Nordschleife, which I'm learning, is you've got to learn which curbs to really use and which curbs to really avoid. And at the moment, we're starting to get there. I feel like pace is improving, the consistency is improving, and I'm enjoying this track more and more. The more we drive it, the more we enjoy it. So yeah, into this long left-hand corner, again, just trying to stay. This is where my weakness is, I think, at the moment on this track. This little section through here, tend to struggle to stay with people through here. So again, I'm going to have to work on that through there and try and get a bit more momentum and try and see if we can find a couple of attempts through this few sections here. But again, on this left-hander, very tricky section, doing that quite well that time, actually getting ourselves right back up behind Calster in P1. And then we're approaching that really tricky right-hand corner. You go downhill, throw it down to fourth gear, and just let the car rotate through the corner and get on the power as early as possible. So again, you can see over 4 seconds now, we've got the gap to P3. So pace is really good at the moment. We're definitely finding a lot of pace at this combination, and using that bit of camber there on the carousel, again, another corner that can catch you out very easy. And again, into this long right-hand corner where we're going to build a bit of a gap up. You can see we're just lifting every now and then just to try and get that gap around half a second. And now it's going to be a case of, have we got it right? So we're going to get in the slipstream to Calster and see what to do. Well, it's going to be a case of either bump draft him and then go for a move, or go for the move early on in the straight. So I decided we're going to go for the move pretty early on. So we've got that slipstream, we're gaining that momentum, we're going to have a bit of overspeed on him on the uphill section now, which we're just about getting to. So we should be able to get past him. You can see he's gone straight into our slipstream. We're going to go to the left-hand side and go defensive, obviously, because you want to be on the left-hand side of the track for this corner if someone's coming back up behind you. So again, putting it right in the middle of the track, making it as hard as possible, really, for him to go for a move. And again, into this final section, down into third gear, trying to make sure we brake in time for this corner. You don't want to late braking, just go straight into the barrier, which we've seen many people do this week. And now we're going to be starting the final lap in the lead. So we've got no slipstream this lap, so it's going to be all about our own pace and how fast we can drive this combination. Can we keep up pace enough to really keep Calster behind us? This is going to be interesting to see how much we've progressed at this combination over the last 12 months whenever it's been on. So again, really pushing on this downhill section again. I actually really enjoy the first few sections at this track. I find it quite nice flowing. You have to kind of get the car rotating, almost drifting through the corners, and it's a really nice feeling. It's just all about timing them downshifts again and chucking the car into the corners. And when you get it right, again, I think there is no combination that comes close to Nordschleife, and it's just so entertaining to really push a car on. So again, you can see we've got a reasonable gap there. We're onto the slipstreaming phase. You can see we're fast forwarding this now as Calster's coming up behind us. With that slipstream, we're going to go to the left-hand side of the track because there's no way he's really going to try and send it around the outside there, because he'll just end up in the grass and then in the barrier. So holding on to P1 and just trying to keep it nice and smooth, getting that apex there on the right side and getting on the power as early as we can to give us some momentum on this downhill section. And again, looking at the replay cameras, just how great they look on GT, and just look how close this is as well. Absolutely pushing on this downhill section, and then into that really fast left-hand corner where it's all about timing. Hit that curb right, you can see there, hitting the curb, all two wheels up in the air there on the left-hand side of the car. So absolutely pushing 100% now and really hooking that section up. You can see the car almost leaning on its tyres there to get the car rotated. And we managed to do that really nicely through there. You can see we're actually doing quite good sectors, actually faster than what we've done when we were following Calster. Obviously the main straight we were slower because we had no slipstream, but we're doing decent sectors, so the pace even though we've got no slipstream, it's definitely there. We're driving pretty well, and we've got pretty solid pace at the moment. So again, pushing through here into this right hand corner, trying to make sure we break a little bit earlier than what we did before, because we ran a little bit wide, and this time we really hook it up. You can see on the power nice and early, and doing everything how we should on that part of the track. And then again into this long right hand corner, this is where we downshift the fourth gear, let it rotate through, see Calster right behind us still there, pushing just 3 tenths behind us. And again, we want to make sure we don't make a big error here, so brake as late as we can. We brake a little bit late there, but we managed to keep it quite stable and actually get on the power quite early, so we're actually hooking that up reasonably well. And we go through with a reasonable solid sector time there, considering we've got no slipstream, so driving pretty well. And again, into this tricky section, very easy to lose on the curbs on these 2 corners here, either on the right hand side there or on the left hand side here. If you get on that curb and you're pushing a little bit too much, it's very easy to lose control. So skipping ahead again, going past the slipstreaming phase where Calster was just behind us. I think he gave us a couple of bump drafts on that long straight. He managed to get right up behind us towards the end of it and gave us that bump draft. And now we're on towards the end of this race now, so we just got this sector to go. Calster's obviously probably not going to go for a move anywhere on this sector. He's just going to probably sit behind us and then wait for the back straights. We've just got to try and make sure that we push 100%, because one little mistake from him and we might be able to break that slipstream. You can see a little bit of an error from myself there, losing a few temps there as we go a little bit aggressive into the corner. Managed to rescue it, but we did definitely lose a tenth or 2 there. But now through here, keeping it nice and smooth, using the curb on the left, then onto the curb on the right, absolutely driving 100% right now. I am pushing as hard as I physically can at this combination on this lap, because I really wanted to see what I could do on my own with no one in front of us, and we wanted to see what our pace was like. Was it good enough to really compete? And at the moment it does look like we're pretty solid at this combination now. Pace is definitely getting there. I think another couple of races and we should have pretty decent race pace at this combination. Our qualifying pace is a 6:59. I think it's basically a 6:59 flat. We can do a 6:58, probably a low 6:58. I'm not sure if I could get in the 57s yet. It depends how long I'd push time trial. I've not really done much this week. I get a little bit bored doing time trial. So yeah, pace is looking pretty good. So again, on this downhill section, trying to go as fast as we can through here. You can see Calster behind us. He's got that slipstream. He's around 3 tenths behind us, and he's gaining on this section. This is where it's all about slipstream again. And then into this final sector where it's going to come into tactics about what to do in this race. You can see Calster, he's probably going to lift off. So again, as we come into this section, we hook that up pretty nicely, and then into the carousel, the second carousel, using that camera on the corner. And again, you can see he backed off a little bit there. I think he actually made a little bit of an error and then decides to back off a bit, but we nearly actually managed to break slipstream here. You can see he pushed 100% through this long right hand corner and got the gap up to 6 tenths, and he possibly panicked a little bit there as he obviously deliberately trying to leave the gap to give himself the slipstream run, and we nearly managed to break that slipstream. However, he did manage to stay in that slipstream, so you can see at this point I didn't know what to do. I was tempted to lift and let him through and then try and get slipstream, but I was on such a good lap that I didn't want to back off. I wanted to just see what would happen if we just push and then try and tuck back into a slipstream, and then maybe see if we can get close enough for the final corner. So Calster does manage to get back in the lead there, and now we're going into the final section. Can we somehow squeeze a move off? It's going to be very difficult to try and do anything. He hooks that corner up, and again, we're not close enough to even go for a fake. Both of us hook that final sector up and over the line. Again, really close racing, thoroughly enjoyable, and again, over 7 seconds away from P3. So I think that shows you that our pace is definitely getting better at this combination. And again, I really am enjoying driving this track on GT Sport. So yeah, if you did enjoy them races, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. We will be doing a lot of videos on GT7 and guides and stuff. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you all soon for more videos and live streams. Thanks again for watching, everyone.